nice to meet you, Eimi.
You too. Thanks for your interest in talking about the film.
Of course, of course. No, I'm looking forward to discussing that, but it's so cool that this movie is having its premiere at the Toronto International
Yeah.
Film Festival, and I want to talk a little bit about that here in a bit. But with the film Nomad Shadow premiering at the Toronto International Film Festival, I guess my first question, the pressing question here is, what is the thing that you need to do while you're in Toronto?
Ah, interesting. For me, it's definitely, look, this is my first feature. And
Mhm,
so the film, just being with the film there, like as the director and as the writer, to be present and to support the film in the best way that I can is my first and foremost goal.
mhm,
Mm. And then beyond that, I look at the possibility of sure meeting people for my next feature and things like that, right? Being able to see some of the films I've got my eyes on, like just to see um, Japanese films because I want
mhm.
to Japanese actors in my next film and so stuff like that. But really, I'm there to be with Nomad Shadow, to be with my actress who's coming. We haven't seen each other in a while, and to be able to see how is the audience reaction to the film? How are people, what's their takeaways? What kind of questions do they ask and really be able to see the film through other people? I mean, I've just been seeing it through my own eyes for 10 years. So this moment of, let's say, finally coming.
Right. Isn't it gonna be great to be able to be with an audience and to, like, get those first reactions? I can't wait for that
Oh
for
my
you.
gosh, I can't wait. I really can't wait. I feel like that was the reason why I set out to make this film is to have people watch it and to transport people to this place, to Western Sahara. Um, and so being able to do that in this way and knowing that at TIFF, that's a very audience-driven festival, and so it's almost like the potluck for this film, I think, being able to have people who are interested in film as well as, lay people who are just, there to see and experience stories from all over. Those, that's the target. So
Yeah,
it's great.
absolutely. Yeah, so you had mentioned, of course, that this is your first feature film,
Mhm.
and that's what a big step that is. Congratulations on
Yeah,
that.
thank you.
Um, I wanna hear more, about your history as a filmmaker, and
Sure.
just tell me about the steps that got you to this point.
Right. Okay, I had a bit of a convoluted journey into film. I studied visual arts, and I majored in sculpture in particular and video art. Um, and it was after I graduated school, I had married to a Sahrawi man, and we moved to the States together. And that's when the Arab Spring happened. And it was happening in Western Sahara as well, but there was nothing in the news getting out about it. And I was like, oh, I want to do something about this. And it's the first time that I had this kind of like burning need to tell a story. I came at it from somewhat of an activist point of view and really out of like the love that I had in my relationship for my partner and his family and friends. Um, and I went thinking I was going to make a documentary, and it was a very difficult process, realizing that we really can't be that openly political, or it was just a very naive first step into a world where the world is much bigger than I am. I didn't realize those things. So then I was like, oh, how about narrative filmmaking where you can subvert some of these thoughts and ideas into fiction. And so yeah, so I kind of slowly went into that, and I was like, okay, well, if I want to make a film, a narrative film, then I need to make a short first. And so what's the short I'm going to make? And kind of moved through the spaces that way. So really, yeah, I came to film from an activist's point of view, and then from there realized that film can combine everything that I've ever studied, from music to art to the languages that I'm able to speak, just how I grew up. And I was like, this is a world where I can be the most facets of me are allowed in this field. And so it really grew on me that way. Yeah.
That is incredible that you bring so much to filmmaking? I mean, I remember reading in your bio how you studied sculpture, and I was
Yeah.
so curious, like what the parallels might be between filmmaking and sculpture. Is like, tell me more about that. That like
Yeah.
getting into sculpture and then taking that discipline and launching into filmmaking.
Right. That's funny because when I did the Sundance Labs, that was one thing. I had Robert Redford as a mentor at the time, and he was like, "Amy, don't forget your sculpture background when bring that into film." And I was like, "Oh, that's funny because no one in film had said that to me yet at that moment." And I was like, "Oh, it's true that like how do I see what's on screen in the same way that I approach sculpture?" And I realized that it's in creating lines within a space or within a frame. It's how do you create dynamism and really thinking about it as lines. So from point A to point B, that's one certain line. So if the eye goes that way, what's another way to move the eye this way? And seeing it kind of experientially through blocking or through whatever it is, it's like really thinking about the space and where camera ought to be in relation to that in the way that like how do you position your body towards an object on a plinth. You know, there's very many ways to come about it. So I think about it that way, that like whatever's inside the screen, I think very spatially instead of pictorially. Um, so I think that like the three dimensionality of working in sculpture and working with my hands and so much about like my physical body with the object has really led me to think about what are the spaces within a flat screen? How do you create that kind of sense of three dimension in a way?
My
But
goodness, I love that. It's just so
yeah,
refreshing to hear about how you can take this discipline that doesn't inherently seem related to film and
right.
was actually advocated for you to use that, and you do.
Yeah.
That's so great.
Yeah. I feel
um
I'm glad, yeah, that the visual arts background is really kind of the where I've been shaped or trained in a sense for what it brings to me at least. Yeah.
Mhm. So when it comes to storytelling, it sounds like it takes time to build a story that you're ready for. I think I was watching an interview with you talking about Battalion to My Beat and how that
Yeah.
also took a really long time to develop. So
Yeah.
talk to me more about that process and like giving these stories the space to like breathe and grow, and also maybe like what the evolution of that looks like from the start of an idea to the final product. How much does it evolve in that time?
Right. It evolves a great amount, and I think that that's to the frustration of my crew and team at times because for my AD on this feature was like, Amy, I have never had this many drafts of the script like into shooting, you know, and I was like, well, to what's available. I mean, okay, look, for Battalions in My Beat and Nomad Shadow, both films were shot in places that have very little infrastructure. And so that becomes embedded in the fabric of how it's made inevitably. There's no way around that. And so when you're faced with, okay, today you might just not get the car that you were supposed to have, or today you might not get the actor you were supposed to have because we couldn't get his visa, those kinds of things. It's like then you just have to adapt, which means the script has to change or the space has changed, the way we were going to film changes. um so it's extremely difficult in that sense because I have to stay very open and flexible to the process of like what's in front of me, and what's feasible, and not just what's feasible, what will be the best outcome for what I'm looking for. um and so there's a lot of writing that happens while we're shooting. At times it's like adapting to the character that you end up casting. So I'll have had, you know, the main character's uncle was supposed to be a very different man than he ended up being in this film because the actor that we found is not at all this sage man the way that I had kind of pictured him in my mind. Instead, he was this man who had gotten divorced twice and who was a womanizer and who was all these things. And I was like, you know what, this we just have to write that into his character now. Um, and so it requires for the actors and people around to be just as flexible as me, and that can be very difficult. But then again, we stay true to the moment, which is something that I find also invaluable to the process of filmmaking. And at least for me, it's like, okay, what's the environment? Okay, now you're going to react, and now we have the thing, and you can't think about it because you got to keep moving. And we'll look back later in the editing room to see what all came. Battalion was the same. Battalion, I didn't even really have a script going in. I had a character and I had certain things that she needed to go through. So unlike with the feature that was like very written, and I went through so many labs also, that the writing process became extremely worked and labored. But for Battalion, let's say there was a lot more flexibility to begin with, and then really it was like what's in front of us. We're in a refugee camp. We're working with, real soldiers as part of our crew, and they'll show me what they do, and I'll adapt to that. And Nomad Shadow was the same. I worked with Sahrawi actors. They adapted the script with me at times to make it more Sahrawi, and just being open to that, and like, okay, well, if we say that, then this is going to change, and making sure I track the characters through those changes so that it doesn't get out of hand either.
Yeah.
But very organic, and it feels messy while it's happening, but there's always a sense of like intuitively, I know the through line. I've lived with this story for so long. I know what needs to be told. And so that's just this kind of thing that I hold on to while everything is like on fire or breaking down or whatever. It's like I've got the thing. Don't worry. You know?
I love it. Being focused, but also being adaptable and flexible, like
Yeah.
valuable skill sets in filmmaking. Um,
Yeah.
that's great. So, Nomad Shadow, let's talk a little bit about that. For people who
Yeah.
are just discovering this film, can you give a quick synopsis on what Nomad Shadow is about?
Yeah. Nomad Shadow is about this young and impulsive Sahrawi woman who gets deported from Spain and has to return home to Western Sahara for the first time in 10 years. And it's about this journey home where, I mean, it's this reverse immigration story, right? About like, what is it like to be on the opposite side of this journey where the going to and the big dream of reaching something has failed. And so how do you take home failure to your family, to your country, to the people who expected you to do better? And how do you survive that? And how do you look for the next step in your life and in your future? How do you carve out a space for yourself when the home that you went back to isn't really what you want it to be, and you don't feel like you fit in or belong anymore? And so yeah, it's a journey of a woman looking for belonging, and not just in a physical sense, but psychologically. What does it mean for me to feel, what do I need to feel okay in this time?
Yeah, very, very compelling story. And it's interesting that you're talking about that, belonging both physically and psychologically. It's something that I thought about in the movie while I was watching it is like the emotionality of it and like where this character is. I want to know a little bit more about how you crafted that in this story. Was there a particular scene or sequence that was either difficult to get that emotionality for, or was it just really natural?
Um, I would say, constructing the story in a way that would resonate with audience. There's something always difficult about that process, right? You have to make sure the sequence of events and blah blah. And in that sense, like, yes, it was tedious and difficult, let's say. But in reaching that with the actress, with my lead, it really wasn't. So of course there's, we have to like get her mindset into the character and all that, but really she was already so close as a person, and her life experience mirrored so much of the character's experience that the marriage was instant between the actress and the character. And so all of the emotion of what does it mean to be of a place but not to be accepted as such, because the actress is Sahrawi but has a faction of her family and part of the society that doesn't really accept her because she chose to live a more westernized life. And so all of the kind of intricacies of delivering a complex character who's really torn between worlds and who's torn inside of herself, and it just she was like, "I'm living me, Amy." And so I was like, "Great," because the character is a lot of myself as well, and so we were able to really unite through the character because I see myself in the character and she saw herself in the character, and we're not the same people, the actress and I, but we had so much in common that really building around this, the feelings of rejection and yearning, were what came really easily, actually. Yeah, luckily, and that's exactly the right person for the film.
Yeah, that's great when you have that perfect match and you guys are just on
Mhm.
the same wavelength and are able to execute
Yeah,
this the way that you imagined. So, that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
The other thing that really struck me about this movie is the visual aspect of it. It is gorgeously shot. There's I remember scenes that were just super vibrant with color, and the boat sequence that's really saturated in the heavy
yeah.
warmth. Oh my goodness, just like stunning visuals here. Tell me about your approach to designing this movie visually and what you wanted to accomplish with how this movie looks.
Right. I mean, Frida Marzouk, our DP, is amazing, and she brought a lot of her expertise and instincts into this. We really, in crafting the film, we had to consider a couple of very difficult things. We had zero rehearsal time and very little time for each scene. And because of that, we really had to be quick and we had to design shots that were very effective, right? I couldn't break down all of our scenes into various shots. It had to be the most minimal. And also to be able to give our actors, who were mostly all non-actors, time to really, because without rehearsal, it's like, well, our first take is going to be our rehearsal, right? So it's getting the kind of shots, designing shots where the actors would have room to come into their roles in a sense. And so that required sometimes, okay, shots where more simple shots. We won't go here, 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 here and break up the action. We'll try and hold the action as long as possible, um, to make room for that sense of natural, their natural ways of being, as well as to kind of confine the spaces. It really worked out, like to make her feel trapped. You don't want to give too many perspectives of, like, for her to be like, okay, I can be here and I can be there and I can. No, she's someone who feels trapped. And so if we trap camera with her and move the least amount of possible, that is going to slowly come through the screen, also, this feeling of. And so we have these tighter close ups where we're close with her and then we get to kind of zoom out and see her in the space, kind of trapped inside the specific space. If I want to show proximity between some characters in the way that she hadn't experienced before, how can we bring the two characters close, but at the same time be efficient enough so that something else can happen in that same shot so we don't have to move camera. So things like that. We had to be extremely efficient in that sense, but still being able to design the shots that would really pull people in the most. I was like, I can't let go of people. I need them to stay with us. I need them to feel like they've just traveled someplace and they were trapped, but they don't feel like they were nervously trapped someplace. They were like comfortably trapped someplace. Because to really transport people to a place they've never been, to a culture that they don't really know that much about, I was like, I need an intimacy. I need them to want to stay with these characters. And it's not just beauty that will do that. It's a sense of intimacy of camera, right? So I was like, how can we make this look beautiful but also intimate? So that we don't look at just tableaus. I need people to kind of come closer to our actors and really feel the textures of what Western Sahara might be like and what the textures of Mariam's experiences are. So on the boat, it's the same. If we're close with her, if we cocoon her in this orange, we're gonna feel like we can feel the particles of light, we can feel the water, we can feel her frustration as she's digging for that fish, and really keep people there. And so it meant, on the case of the boat, it meant like, yeah, it was the cameraman, it was me on this tiny boat with her, and we're just like bobbing up in the Mediterranean, just so, the actresses about to puke, and we're just like, ah, hang in there, and the DP almost goes flying overboard like that. That's how you get something that looks like this, intimate, perhaps dangerous, or at least the kind of stressor of how it was made is still embedded in the picture, which I think even if it looks beautiful in the end, there's something about the energy of how it was made that I'm hoping is retained there and doesn't just get glossed over.
Oh yeah, the lengths we go to get the shot and to get the right feel for a scene or sequence. That's so awesome.
Yeah. No, we were all, I mean, that was the thing. I look around, I'm like, wow, we're all so driven. People gave so much of themselves for this project, or to this project. It really took everybody's care and love and commitment because it wasn't an easy shoot. It was one of those things that you call passion project in a difficult place, under difficult circumstances. But I kept looking around each time being like, I'm really blessed from everybody we worked with in Algeria to Spain, um, really committed artists. Yeah.
That's great. I just have a couple more questions for you as we
Sure.
start to wrap up. Being a first time feature filmmaker, I mean, it sounds like you brought a lot of experience to helping make this movie. But I guess I wonder what was the thing that scared you the most about jumping into your first feature film?
Is I didn't think about it too much during the shoot. It seeps in after.
Mm,
Um, is the is the fear of failing everybody who was there, who gave so much. As I just mentioned, everybody gave a lot, and I was like, can I answer that? Can I answer to that? Like the human pact that we all made, these months of our lives that we poured into this, can I respond? And can I be true to that? And that was a pressure that felt really crushing at times as we came up with restrictions on budget, on time, and you just feel like, I just need enough to make good on the promise of making a good film together. That was a fear, but thankfully, again, to like in the wonderful like support that I got through the Sundance Labs at some point, they they really say to you, and I've been totally indoctrinated into this, but it's like, you know, go out with the expectation to fail. Like, go out and make your first movie and your second movie and however many movies with the expectation to fail with the all, like you can't make everything that you set out to make happen. And so know that you're going to fail. And so I really tried to put that in my head and say, look, there's, if I could have it in many other ways, I would have had more time, I would have had more money, I would have, but this, I'm going to work within limitations, and I'm not going to see my own limitations until I'm on the other side and be like, oh, if only you knew. But but that's just the process, and like really try to love the thing that you're making as you're making it, and that can be the only thing you can trust, because doubt and self-doubt is obviously rampant, and you can let it really take over. And I have let it take over at times, but kind of just keep trying to come back to say like, I I can say I did my best with what I knew how to do at the time, and I'll take whatever I've learned in Nomad Shadow to my next film. But I am able to look at Nomad Shadow with a sense of integrity that we held on to what was most important, and we were able to like that. That's coming through. I do believe that when I see the film now, and that's like how I can sleep at night.
absolutely. And yes,
Yeah.
what an achievement this film is for you. Final question, and that is, like we said, it's premiering here at the Toronto National Film Festival. What does that mean to you? What does it mean to have this film go out to the world starting at the Toronto National Film Festival?
I mean, it's huge. It's really humbling. It's really gratifying. Um, we worked hard in a place like TIFF, I feel like is perfect for this film. Like I said earlier, because it's audience driven, because it's an international, it's a huge platform for the film. It's an international festival. I also think that Canada is actually more neutral grounds than other places. Like the story is it's very embedded in Europe and North Africa, and I feel like it's nice to have it be in a place that's a little bit further away where it gives it more neutral ground for people to kind of come to the story with something to discover instead of notions that they might already be carrying with them. So for all of those reasons, and the fact that I'm coming back after Battalion had screened there, it feels full circle. And if anything, like things feel right in my life when it's like, oh, might have taken 10 years, but when that circle happens, you're like, I'm doing something right. Or like the universe is moving in a way that is making sense for myself, for the film. And hopefully that means for the trajectory and the life of the film outside of me, um, that we're headed in like off on a good start, on a good foot at this festival. I'm really excited and happy and nervous and all the film, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I once again congratulate you on the accomplishment of having this film and having it premiere at the Toronto National Film Festival. Really well done. And I am absolutely wishing you the best of luck with this film going out to the world and with your career going forward. Okay.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much for this conversation. It was really
Yes.
lovely.
Thank you. This was great. Thanks.